Welcome back to Live Whidbey. Today I am walking you through exactly what I look for every single time I'm buying or helping someone buy in an HOA or water association on Whidbey Island. I'll show you my real screen and process step by step as if I were buying a home myself by the end of 2025. Let's jump in. Okay, so for reference here, Title 64 RCW is the Washington state laws that house everything HOA. For older HOAs, RCW 64.38 covers homeowners associations. There is a separate condo association law. The Condominium Act for older condo associations is going to be under 64.34. But what everything is heading towards is RCW 64.90, which is going to encompass condos and HOAs, and as of today's date, everything is supposed to be fully enacted by 2028. A few provisions are changing in 2026. If you want more information about that, I have done a couple other videos going a little bit more in depth. But if you want information specific to the most recent changes or changes as they happen on RCW 64.90, also known as WCIGO. This website, wciwa.info, is really great. We'll scroll through this here, but I'm not going to go super in depth with this stuff today. While we're on this topic, there are some really great pieces of information at the bottom of this website, wciwa.info, that go more in depth on specifics like resale certificates, reserve funds, board basics, and they give really great overviews of some of the things that we will be going over in today's video. But if I were to be purchasing a home in a homeowners association or water association, we won't get into condos, but those two specific types of Plats properties, this is exactly what I would do. First thing I would do is reference these laws so that I know exactly what I'm looking for in real time and what all these associations are held to the standard of. Now, keep in mind, water associations have a little bit of a different set of laws than an HOA, and I'm not going to go super in depth with water. I'll touch on a few things, but we're mainly focusing on HOA today. So first thing I'm going to do is go to the ICGO map, which is going to give us an aerial map of all of Island County. I'm going to zoom into the subdivision that I am looking at. In this case, we're going to use Mariners Cove as an example. So I have the plat layer turned on. Here at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, there is a tab called Layers. I toggle on Boundaries. I expand that menu, toggle on Boundaries, and then click on where it says Plats, and that's going to highlight this plat for me. If I click on the plat, it'll highlight the entire subdivision in blue, and that gives me the plat name, which is Mariners Cove Division 3. From there, I can click on the plat map, and it'll pull up the actual plat map and give me the recording number for reference if I need to pull that up. A few other things to note on the plat map. This one has restrictions written on it. It also has a description. Most of this stuff is pretty irrelevant to what I would be looking for if I was purchasing an HOA, but the restrictions are definitely important. And I can use the name of the plat as an initial reference for what I'll be searching when it comes to documents related to this homeowners association. And in an ideal world, the subdivision's business name is going to be the same as the name on the plat map. It's not always the same way, but next I would go to the Secretary of State website. Click on where it says corporations and charities, click on search tools, and I would type in the name of that subdivision. So in this case, Mariners Cove, click search, and I get 3 different business names that pop up. 2 voluntarily dissolved. The third one is Mariners Cove Beach Club Incorporated, which is slightly different than the name on the plat map. I'll click on that. On the business information page, it tells you that the nature of business is a homeowners association. The business status is active. Expiration date of their annual report is 2026, which means that they are current. And then there's also some contact information for their registered agent if you were looking for someone to get in contact with and couldn't find any other information about this association. The names at the bottom here are the governors. Next, I click on filing history at the bottom right hand corner of this page, and this is going to show the annual report filing history. It's also going to show if they made any changes. So if you click on the articles of incorporation here, that's going to show you what everything laid out as when the homeowners association business was first established. So, according to these documents, the Articles of Incorporation established them as Mariners Cove Beach Club Incorporated. So, they wouldn't have gone through any name changes since the Articles of Incorporation. Note that for newer homeowners associations, the Articles of Incorporation typically don't look this extensive. This is more, I would say, normal for some of the older homeowners associations on the island. This one was established in 1966. So, I'm not going to go through all of these right now, but this is a great reference document if you're looking at comparing different governing documents today to the Articles of Incorporation and looking for pieces of information that might conflict each other. There is a hierarchy of governing documents, and in a lot of cases, the Articles of Incorporation will trump a lot of other things, but definitely consult legal if you have questions about that. Okay, so the next page that I would go to is the Island County document recording search, and I would type in Mariners Cove. You can type in Mariners Cove Beach Club Incorporated, but because the way that documents get recorded, they aren't always consistently recorded under the full name of the corporation. I like to keep it as generic and simple as possible so I make sure I get all the documents. There is a search bar for grantor and one for grantee. If you're looking to get really granular, you can type it in to either of those, but by typing it into the section that says both names, I make sure that I'm capturing all that information. So then I would click search. Okay, and this gives us a list of all of the digitally scanned in recorded documents. There are some that you can't pull images of online, but note that some documents that are older aren't always digitally uploaded onto the Island County site. So if you want everything, the best bet is to go down to the county and actually have them pull those documents so you can physically read through everything. But what we're looking for here is restrictions, sometimes easements, amendments. And if you scroll to the very bottom here, this is the most recently recorded sets of documents, and here we see that an amendment was done to the bylaws in 2025. So that tells us that this association is staying on top of updating their governing documents and that they've recently made some amendments and changes. Next, I would read through all of these documents. It's a bit time consuming, but it gives you a good idea of what the association is looking like right now, how they are running the community, and of course that comparison piece, making sure that as you look back at all the various changes that were done, that everything was done appropriately. And again, the best way to do this is by consulting legal counsel, talking to an HOA specific attorney, but this is definitely something you can do yourself as well. So the next thing that I would do is I would Google the name of the association and I would see if they have a website. Not all do, they're not required to, but it's great to see if they do have a website. Mariners Cove does have a website, marinerscovewhidbey.com. Looks like they have a login for all the residents. There's an overview. It talks about governing documents, board of trustees, and a location. So a lot of HOAs on Whidbey Island are also water associations, and water is one of the amenities that's part of their HOA. So a good way to figure out if they are in fact a water association is by going back to the ICGO map that we were on earlier. I've zoomed back into Mariners Cove. You can expand the site review section. Click on the check mark next to that, scroll down to water system groups, and this is going to highlight all of the various water systems on the island. Two-party, Group A, and Group B. Group A is typically your larger water systems. Mariners Cove is on its own Group A water system, and the system name is Mariners Cove Beach Club Incorporated, and it gives you this thing called a water system ID. And copy this water system ID, which is 51730, and you can come over to the Washington State Department of Health website under drinking water system data, and you can specifically search the water system ID. You can also type in the water system name. Okay, and this gives you all the records through the Washington State Department of Health specific to the water system ID. Here you can see the residential population number is 300, the total number of calculated connections versus approved connections. You can see who is doing the maintenance on the water system and who that primary contact is. You can check any reports which are important to look through. You want to check and see if their operating permit is in the green, which theirs is. You can look at their water quality monitoring schedule. These are all clickable links. Any of their exceedances over the past few years. You can see what their source information is, who the operators are, their samples, and then their water use efficiency report. Looks like the last time that theirs was submitted was in 2023. So that is an annual report, but a lot of things are changing with the Department of Health right now when it comes to water systems. So it's definitely a question I would be asking as to why one was not filed in 2024 or 2025. Okay, so from there, if you decide that your preliminary look into the HOA is satisfactory for you, then at that point, I would go take a look at the actual house. The geomap itself is updated pretty regularly, so you can get a pretty good vibe for what the community looks like, what amenities are in proximity to the house that you're looking at. Nothing beats actually going and physically looking at the property, walking through. Make sure when you are there looking at the property that you also get a feel for the neighborhood and if that fits the lifestyle that you're looking for. Another thing to note while you are driving through the neighborhood is to look at the amenities that they have and take a mental note of that, or even write it down if you need to. Later on, when you're looking at the more in-depth documents provided after an offer is submitted and you're in a mutual acceptance period, you'll want to make sure that the reserve study is accounting for the amenities that you noted in the community. A plat map will also lay out some of these amenities too. For example, if there is some kind of community lot. You can also usually see something like that on this map too. In this case, it looks like there is docks and waterways that are the main amenities in this community. But a lot of communities on Whidbey will have a shared community lot that's either green space or some kind of park, or again, a water system. So as of 2025, resale certificates are not mandatory yet, but there is still an HOA document review period once a home is under mutual acceptance. And so these are the things that you would be looking for once you get those HOA documents. And ideally, you at minimum want meeting minutes, CC&Rs, bylaws, those basic documents, but the financials are a really important piece of information to look at as well. And specifically, you're looking at this balance sheet. You want to see how much the association has in operating, in reserves, any other assets that they have, liabilities. You also want to look at the income coming into the association. And if you get a financial report as detailed as this sample report, you can look and see how the association is spending its money. Important things to note are if the association is adequately saving up for its reserves. And speaking of reserves, that's where the reserve study would come into play. And this is a super important document to ask for as well. If they haven't done one, that would be a red flag to me. But this is a sample reserve study. And note that there are different levels of reserve studies. There are reserve studies where a reserve specialist physically comes out to the association, lays eyes on the different assets of the association, takes pictures, documents that, and then comes up with a dollar amount for what it would take to maintain those things. Are they beyond their use life? Do they need maintenance? If not, when are they going to need maintenance? How much does the association need to set aside each year to ensure adequate reserves to maintain those components, to not end up in a financial situation that would be a burden on the homeowners? And so these reports are quite lengthy. It just depends on the size of the association, but typically there is some kind of summary page at the very beginning of that report that shows the risk of that association, if the funding of the association is considered weak or if it's considered stronger, and then some recommendations for how to get the association to a point where it has stronger reserves and it is funded adequately. Another important thing to look for in the reserve study is any major repairs that are recommended that might be coming up soon. And typically there's a few summary pages that break things down, and every reserve study looks a bit different. This is just a sample. Most importantly, make sure you are reading the meeting minutes. That's what's going to break down everything for you in real time based off of what the HOA is actively talking about doing. So that's my full process for reviewing a home in an HOA or water association here on Whidbey Island. It's about digging deeper than the listing to really understand what kind of community you're buying into. If you're thinking about buying on Whidbey and want pointed to the resources to help you make an educated decision when you're reviewing HOA documents, or just help finding the right neighborhood fit, book a call with me using the link below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.